Hey guys, it's Ngamahu here once again, and the title does say almost. That is, of course, because there is no such thing as too fast. So this here is a Raider Cyclone character built around the Ngamahu's axe, and that just means you're dealing all sorts of fire damage, and you have some molten burst procs going off when you hit every now and again, and I'll go over that a bit later in the video. Essentially, just a two-hand axe Cyclone build with the new Raider buffs, meaning your frenzy charges are going to be up on bosses 100% of the time, and they're really easy to sustain. A Raider Cyclone is just insanely fast and satisfying to play, and this isn't even anything special. I haven't gone too far out of my way to build into attack speed or movement speed yet. It's just a basic Raider sort of passive tree with all the good stuff that Raider gets in the form of lots of movement speed and attack speed. And as you can see, the damage so far is pretty good considering we're still sort of in our infancy for this character. Now the axe itself has some good fire damage, doesn't have anything too special as a tooltip, but it does help you bridge the gap that Cyclone currently has of single target with the molten burst procs. And as you can also see, Vile Cyclone gets quite a good amount of use in the build too, and goes quite a long way to increasing your clear speed for the lower level content out there. Now, I won't always be using Vile Cyclone, and you probably shouldn't use it if you're not too confident about taking dickings all the time from various monsters, bloodline attributes, and breach, well, I guess spawns, but it is very fun, and I have definitely been using a lot of it from about level 60 to 85, just low tier maps. I think it's very worth it. The problem is you can't fit everything into this build that you want because of the axe and the way it works, which is something I'll show you right now. The weapon or axe we're building around here is the Ngamahu's Flame. Just another weapon or unique in a long list of uniques that have been introduced that we can't pronounce for shit. So thanks for that. And it's basically just a pretty standard axe. It's got 400 DPS to begin with, so it's nothing too special. Bit of attack speed. Half your damage gets converted to fire, and that really opens you up to then grab Zoph's blood as well to convert the other rest of your damage to fire, and that means you can then build purely into fire penetration. So you get 20 there, 10 here, another 6 here, and 8 there, and all of a sudden you are very effective against anything with fire resist and anything without it, giving you almost always pretty much 100% of your damage effectiveness against targets. Whereas a traditional Cyclone or physical build, let's just say, does sometimes get a bit weaker against targets with armor or physical resistance on map mods. As well as that, something like Hatred or Herald of Ash or Added Fire isn't as effective as you might think it would be, because the resistances do exist and you currently have no penetration for those other elements. So you're converting all of your damage to pure fire and then doing a lot of penetration, so that all of your damage is pretty much going to be always effective. As well as that, you can run things like Fire Pen, and I'm also running Flammability. Now the important thing on this axe, however, is 20% chance to attack with level 16 Molten Burst on melee hit. Now what that is a secondary, pretty much the same as the secondary effect of Molten Strike. There's going to be a bunch of balls that drop down to the ground, and they'll hit your target. You can see it in your character sheet by finding it here. It's Molten Burst, and as you can see, mine has an average damage of 9.5k while dropping 7 projectiles. Now they go off pretty quickly and quite often when you hit with quite a lot of attack speed, and they can be scaled by support gems. So you put support gems into your axe, and it's very important to have a 6 socket for that, so it's essentially a 6 link, because it doesn't need to be linked at all, much like a Whispering Ice. So you can support it with anything that would support a projectile based sort of physical attack, and for that I have got Concentrated Effect, GMP, Fire Penetration, Physical Proj, weapon elemental damage, and added fire damage. At this stage, a good elemental focus would probably be better than an added fire damage support, but it's really not too much of a difference yet, and I have not bothered socketing that in. But you can get the idea. There's a lot of options there. It's a bunch of fire damage and it's projectiles, and it really helps bridge the gap on your single target, because a while ago Cyclone was the absolute king of melee attacks and it got nerfed. Now the nerf happened to do essentially cut your first hit in half. So as you can see there, it says first hit deals 50% less damage. Before that, you'd always just deal 100% damage. Now this means that your first hit's always going to deal half of your damage, and then your consequential hits will hit a bit harder. And that was just to prevent some of the clear speed that Cyclone had, because it was much better than every other skill. And Cyclone's kind of back now because weapon range was buffed on all melee weapons, which is very substantial for Cyclone, and something like this axe can be very good to help out on the single target with Molten Burst. As I've mentioned though, you don't strictly need this axe, Ngamahu's, because when you watch the videos and the clips I've got for you, most of the time it is just Cyclone killing things. Cyclone is killing all the trash, like pretty much clearing all the maps by itself, and the Molten Burst is just landing well behind it and not quite catching up. It's mostly there for your single target, for the bigger, heavier guys, and just a bigger physical weapon should be able to do that just fine. A Disfavor would still be very insane, and so would a War Chief. Now, as I was saying, the problem is that we now use 6 sockets here, 6 sockets here, and that doesn't leave us much with anything else. So I have a Flammability Blasphemy setup, a Herald of Ash, a Stone Golem. This is my movement skill setup, pretty much mandatory. And then you have room for one other thing. Now you want a cast when damage taken setup, you want some Vile Haste, you would love a Vile Lightning Trap, you would enjoy a Vile Cyclone, and you'd also want a War Chief Totem. You can only fit one of those in. And for leveling from level 70 to 90 probably, or 70 to 85 I'd say, I am going to be using Vile Cyclone because that shit farms. At some point it just doesn't become practical to use it, and that's when I'll most likely put in a cast when damage taken setup, or maybe a War Chief, because he does give you a good amount of extra damage, and I think I can get away without a cast when damage taken setup. The passive tree, I will link to you guys. Essentially getting all the frenzies, a good amount of jewels, because they're fairly important for Fizz, Fire Area, all that. Plenty of life on the tree. You get Resolute Technique, and as well as that, this is our Life Leech, because it gives all kinds of Life Leech, and our Mana Leech is taken care of here. Now you do grab Point Blank because it's only 2 points and scales your Molten Burst very nicely. As well as that, we grab Iron Grip because that also scales your Molten Burst pretty well, and it's only 1 point. So all of this put together has given me some of the most enjoyable time in Path of Exile, where your movement speed's amazing, your attack speed's amazing, your damage is really good, your survivability is pretty damn nice, and Vile Cyclone is just incredible to play with. This is a double Beyond, or maybe single Beyond, I think it was double Beyond race course with Breach, and I was just Beyond bosses all over the place, Vile Cyclones cleaning up breaches all over the place, though they can definitely get dangerous, and it's just a pleasure to melt through things at this stage with this type of playstyle, and really, it's not that expensive. I don't know if the weapon has been going up recently, it probably has, but all in all, it should still be very good for what it is worth, because it's basically your endgame weapon and it'll carry you hard for quite a long time. The Zoph's blood itself isn't that necessary, but it does get you towards your sort of higher damage range for just pure fire damage. You get a lot of run speed, you get a lot of attack speed. It makes maps like this, the Arachnid Nest even, really nice to do, and this is without Vile Haste, and even quite a few points I could still spend elsewhere. You could get a few more attack speed nodes, you could even run a Queen of the Forest if you really want with a Grace, and even get more movement speed. You could go Dark Ray Vectors instead of a Devotos. I've been tossing up over that one a bit. You can go up to the Templar area, get some increased area if you really want. It's kind of a flexible passive tree, and I will link you what I've sort of made so far, but by all means change it up however you feel. And Raider is not the only option here. You can of course go Berserker, maybe also a Slayer, a Juggernaut. There's plenty of other stuff you can do. This is just sort of a template for Cyclone in the current Breach League with this new fancy axe, which a few people have already built around and had some pretty good success over. I will probably be able to take this to Shaper and Guardians, and I'll have some more videos and updates for you guys in the future. For now, this is just a quick little demo of the Cyclone and how it's working, and it's been very fun. I've leveled very quickly, and I look forward to doing more. So thank you very much for watching, and see you guys next time.